Spring Television. Ours it is.
Top of the morning to you. Thank you very much for sticking with us all through this month. It's the last day in the month of January 31st, 2023. So we're moving gradually in this journey this year again. And it's been an event-filled but a growing one for most Nigerians. Thank you so much for starting your day with us right here on Morning Spring. On Western Spring Television on channel 190 on the DTT platform of Star Times. You can also watch us on YouTube at Western Spring Television. Femi Olanipeku is my name. Good morning.
Thanks a lot for joining us today on this Tuesday edition of the Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. I am Temitope Ajijola Oluola. Good morning.
Well, so it's still a very challenging period for Nigerians coming down here again. I saw queues, people perhaps who slept
already.
Yeah, you know, and you know, a colleague of mine also told me that they bought a fuel 360, and so that would be if you're buying 4 liters, about 1,500 naira. So what's the essence? People have had to park their cars now. Some people have had to you know, trek long distances because the commuters, transport owners, have also increased their fares, and there is no commensurate increase in salaries and wages. And so it's been a very painful, very worrying, very traumatic time for most Nigerians.
Indeed, it has. I mean, when I was coming, I saw not only at the filling stations now, but even at the banks. Already,
this morning,
already at the banks.
At the ATMs.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
So it's really, really, really tough for people across almost all sectors.
So what are we not going to queue for? So you queue for your PVCs because it's been extended now in most places. You queue for fuel, and then again you queue for cash. So I think I had a bet with Emmanuel last time about...
You almost did.
Yes, that this cash swap policy was going to be extended. So it's be extended now. If it was not extended, we could have seen chaos on the streets yesterday and even today.
Because we're already having chaos, as it is.
Yes. I mean, so those who are selling goods and services are refusing to take the old notes.
Yes.
Customers do not have access to the new notes.
Even the old notes are no longer available. No old notes, no new notes.
So no cash.
No cash at all.
So you are forced to use your phone. And that's for us who belong to the middle class. So what about those in the rural areas who do not have access to mobile banking transactions, or you know, older folks who do not have access or cannot navigate their ways through this?
Well, some of them are being catered for by the CBN, but not everyone. I mean, in the north, we've been seeing them going to rural areas, but I've not seen any in the southwest.
Right. So we do hope that we get a solution to this. I will be reviewing the papers shortly. You'll be seeing, I believe, some of the reactions to what's going on in the country at the moment as we speak. And on, you know, our guest today also will be talking about the realities of this cash swap issue. We'll be talking about how people at the grassroots have been coping, what's been our experience, you know. That's what we'll be talking about on the program today. But let's take this break. When we return, bring you the newspapers.
Just stay with us.
The history of guns is traced to China. The Chinese had developed a technology civilization that produced devices identified as guns at about 1000 AD. By the end of the 13th century, the devices had become true guns and described as metal-barreled firearms that fired single projectiles which occluded the barrel. When did gun become an instrument of war? The first battles to be decided by firearms were between French and Spanish soldiers. The early 16th century warfare included Magnano in 1515, Bicocca in 1522, and Pavia in 15 1525, the wars were fought in Italy. The gun is a weapon of destruction and death, but humanity sees it as a potent instrument of family destruction. People with guns feel safer even if they don't display it. Western.
All right, thank you so much for sticking with us. So the papers now. Let's start with the Punch newspapers. And these alarming headline, the banner headline of the papers about the president's presidential visit to Kano. Buhari's Kano visit. Protesting youths barricade roads, stone helicopter. With the riders, Nigerians don't appreciate what they have, says Buhari as protesters rampage. Foreign elements using Boko Haram to destabilize Nigeria. President insists. APC campaign council kicks as PDP blames Tinubu Ganduje for attacks. That's the banner headline on the front page of the Punch newspaper. Isn't that surprising? Isn't that shocking?
Really? Well, Ganduje warned the president yesterday about his visit to Kano. And the president was adamant. He went still. And now we have seen that youths everywhere, are, especially now in Kano, as it is displayed here, that, they were angry, they were protesting. I think that Nigeria is fast growing into a state of anarchy because all across the sectors, we're having issues. We still have a lot of insecurity problems. We have accidents happening all around. We have the Naira issue. We have people, we have a lot of problems.
People are frustrated, and so it's a pent-up anger and everything. I mean, what makes it more surprising for most people is the fact that these happened in Kano. Kano is one of the strongest strongholds, if I can put it that way, of the president. Each time he goes to Kano, he's received with warmth, and you see the kind of crowds that troop out cheering him. But the reverse is the case this time. I saw some pictures yesterday of youths daringly stoning the president's helicopter. Yes. That's shocking. I mean, that's unexpected. But it speaks to the level of frustration in the land. Yeah. It speaks to the challenges that people, ordinary folks, face. You talked about Ganduje warning him, and that has also now been politicized. But I think it's just simple arithmetic. If you live in this country, you could perhaps have second guessed, or seen these coming. If there's frustration, people can buy fuel. In some places, fuel is as high as 500, 600 naira now. And so 650. So, look at the situation where they do not even have cash to buy the fuel. Yes. So it's double whammy, double jeopardy for them. And so perhaps it's also instructive. I do hope that our leaders take heed for them to manage this situation better. But then, with the president saying we don't appreciate what we have, then we begin to wonder what exactly we have. Oh, so we have a lot of problems, and we should appreciate the problems. We have the president. We have our leaders. Maybe we should appreciate them more, but then they need to do more for them to be appreciated. But that's that about the president's visits to Kano. What a turnaround, really, if you ask me, from what the president, a hero to the people of Kano, especially in the northern part of the country, and what happened here. With youths barricading roads, youths stolen helicopter. This is shocking, and this is a major turnaround. We do hope that this does not snowball, because this is happening in Kano. You don't know how much frustrated you can imagine the level of frustration other youths across other parts of the country. Yes. So also want to exhibit again. But people can't take it anymore. Yes. So they're beginning to show their frustration openly now. And so you can see the pictures of some of the youths really holding stones. Americans call it rocks, but this one in Nigeria, they are holding stones. And you also see the picture of the president commissioning one of the major projects there, sponsored by the NSIA. Well, that's that. Just beside the nameplate, you get the update on the petrol scarcity. 650 naira petrol. Pengassan plans clamp down on marketers. Pengassan plans clamp down on marketers. That's on page 20 of the Punch newspaper. Pengassan is a trade union. Perhaps they'll be working or trying to force the hands of some of the government agencies. But I'm shocked at the level of irresponsibility of those in charge to have allowed this to degenerate to this level.
Exactly.
It's been 5 months on now, 5 months, 5 straight months. And before then, we also had issues of fuel scarcity in the first half of the year, in the middle of the year. So now, but these only has been 5 months running. So do you need Pengassan to, to push you before clamping down on marketers? What exactly is wrong? And what exactly is the problem? Why we have not been able to address this? And in the middle of this, we need to cope with the cash crisis again.
I think that with Nigeria, things must be chaotic before we intervene in situations. I mean, just look at that, the president's visit to Kano. In another climb, the president would have just turned back and gone back to, where he was coming from. He wouldn't have even, gone ahead with what he went there for. But then it speaks to how leadership is in Nigeria. We really don't care what the people are facing. We don't want to do anything until we are pushed. We have to be pushed by the chaos, by people's aggression, show of aggression all around the country. And so if Pengassan is talking now, at least they're talking.
Well,
Let's see what happens.
Yeah, so I mean, there's been questions as to what the labor unions are doing. So people have asked about what's the NLC doing actually? This is gone for long. But perhaps why the NLC is not speaking is because there's no official position on the increase. But the labor unions also should speak up for their members. And that's what Pengassan is doing here. Like you said, it's when issues get chaotic, almost to the point of anarchy, that perhaps you are pushed to move. We do hope that this is enough for the agencies and government to intervene credibly well, because there's a level of interventions. Emmanuel kept talking about the fact that NNPC said they had social meters in stock. We never got to see. They just told us again now that some ships are waiting to bird because they have oil, and so maybe that will help us. But we do hope Nigerians do not care about the details. Just get these. We
just want to see the results.
Let it be available and let people move on. So just above the nameplate by the left-hand corner, new Naira racketeering booms in Lagos, Abuja, Anambra. DSS arrest unauthorized dealers, POS operators, hike charges. So what won't we make money out of? So government is punishing, the people are also punishing. But so some policies create an ambience, create a conducive environment for corruption. And this is what we have here. If this policy is well managed, perhaps there won't be room for racketeering. And the DSS stepping in to arrest unauthorized dealers is also good. But POS operators, I understand now, charge way above what they should ordinarily charge.
1,000 naira on every 10,000 naira.
That's interesting. So I collect 9,000 naira instead. Oh my goodness. Wow. Oh my goodness. And then I feel it's a wrong policy ab initio to have asked that the POS operators will also be part of the changing changing of the currency, and they will still charge on the new currency. So that will not encourage people to go. So if I go to the bank to change my currency, there'll be no charges. Is that correct? So if I go to the POS, there'll be charges. So that means it's business for those folks. And you want to encourage Nigerians to swap those currencies, isn't it?
Yeah, but then we see that POS operators have new notes sometimes. Yeah. But the bank ATMs do not have. So, like I said, I saw a very long queue now at the bank. I'm wondering, maybe they are POS operators, who have woken up that early to go to the banks to get the notes. And then in the midday, there's no note again.
We'll get to speak to their chairman. So these are questions we'll put to them. Why are they increasing, their charges? So are they hiking their charges here, and then what exactly, how easy is it for them? Because I've also heard some of them say, it's not easy. We also spend hours in queues. We also spend a lot of time trying to get this cash from the banks and, what have you. So we'll get to know more about all of that when our guest comes here. So still above the nameplate of the paper, return seized assets to me. The Ziani tells FG, returned seized assets to me. Desiani tells FG. Desiani is the former Minister of Petroleum Resources, facing corruption charges, but she's been outside of the country, and it appears that she has dragged these down for a long time, so she's trying to get back her assets now. Let's see how that will play out. Bottom strip of the paper by the left-hand side, 7 directors jostle for Accountant General's job, and panic in Lagos. As Lagos hoodlums invade school, chase pupils. This is Omonile syndrome.
Yes.
If you read the story, the hoodlums claim that they just got a judgment and that land belongs to their family or to them, and then they invaded the school, chased pupils, chased staff. They had broken part of the fence. It's asinine. I mean, it's silly when non-state actors wield such powers, inflict damage on property, inflict damage on bodies, on humans, and the state cannot do anything about it, because this matter was reported to the police and the police couldn't do anything to it. And this kind of brigandage is spreading across the country. He's now with us here in Osun State.
Yes,
you can't lay a block on a block without some scrupulous elements coming and harassing you, collecting money as if you are paying tax. It's shameful.
Yes.
It is.
Even after paying, going through the necessary process through the normal bank,
the official
agencies.
Channels,
So you still have to do this as well. Well,
I do hope the government will come and put its feet down and insist that this has no place in artisan society. It's not going to take place in my own state. But these are some of the vices we've imported from Lagos. It is happening. It happens in Lagos on a regular basis, and he's with us here. Can you imagine this? This school has been in existence since the early 90s, and the hoodlums just came and harassed anyone. Pupils could have gotten injured, could have been killed, because he won't in your. And the owner said she didn't hear about any judgment. She was not served any judgment. So how come? But the police will never do anything about it. But that's by the way. I mean, it's a part of the very disturbing part of Nigeria. The final story is on page 27 of the Punch news. YFG backs U.S. visa ban on election riggers. That's the final story on the Punch newspaper this morning.
All right, moving on quickly to Daily Trust. POS operators hike charges amid Naira note scarcity. That's the banner headline. And the riders, agents charge 1,000 Naira for 10,000 Naira transaction. DSS intercepts currency racketeers. Gunmen attack POS operators, injure 3 in Bauchi. Why e-payment may not address Naira scarcity, expert says. We've been having, like we said, I said it earlier, that the agents have been charging a lot for cash transactions. But it's also a good news that DSS has been intercepting currency racketeers. And, another disturbing news there is that gunmen also attack POS operators, probably in a bid to enforce or
enforce or actually steal money from them. So everyone looking for the money, including the criminals also. So I won't be surprised if you have kidnappers kidnapping someone around this time and insisting a ransom be paid in new Naira notes.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's that frustrating. It's that disappointing. But
of course,
the DSS
cases of kidnappers asking for payment in new notes.
Imagine. I mean, so DSS intercepting the currency racketeers is good, but may not be enough because of the size of the country, of the magnitude of the crisis.
I mean, that's a surface problem.
Yes,
solving it from
yes, but what will address this frontally, what will put these racketeers out of business is if you have, as much Naira notes as possible. So no one needs to go beg anyone to access the Naira notes. For God's sake, we are just some few weeks to the election. We're looking at the crest of unprecedented proportions if we do not manage these well on the fuel front, on the cash front, and our leaders are going about as if nothing is happening. This is a latent crisis that can snowball into a very big one, But I do hope that they hear. And the expert also saying the e-payment method may not address Naira scarcity. I mean, if you check our infrastructure level, if you check the number of persons that have access to mobile money platforms or have access to e-payment platforms, it's quite small, compared to the Nigerian population. I was reading a report over the weekend, and it was said that the mobile base stations of telecommunications company, the average that we should have in most states is not there. And these are infrastructure that you need to drive these e-payment platforms, because they also run through the telecommunication channels. And so they said for some states, you should have an average of, say, 6,000 per state. But some states up north, what you have is just 500. So that, situations where a state has 21 local governments, only 4 of those local governments have banks. So how do you intend? And then the same is also the same. It's the same for them in telecommunications infrastructure that the e-payment platform depend on. So
it's more like compounding all these issues without having, possible solutions to them.
We are not ready, obviously.
We're not.
And so it seems to be jumping, running before our time. So a lot more thinking and careful thinking need to be put into our policy making, such that Nigerians are not at the receiving end of every policy somersault, every policy failure like we're experiencing.
Yes, very true. All right, the bottom strip of the paper says, ISWAP distributes all Naira notes to passengers in Borno.
That's another government operating in that part of the country. Right? That's it. Those guys collect their own tax. So they're now distributing, and the people will gladly take it. So if you have no access to the new Naira notes, someone is gifting you the old Naira notes. Why not jump at it?
All right, Nigeria at very high risk of Lassa fever, NCDC once. FG backs US on visa ban, says Buhari not eyeing third term. And then UDOS produces first made in Nigeria COVID-19 vaccine.
That's a good one.
That's a good news.
That's a good one. That should be Usman Danfodio University in Sokoto. So that's a very, very commendable one. I mean, a cheering news in the midst of the gloom, over the Nigerian nation. That's a good one.
We only hope that it goes through the necessary testings, before being, administered. All right, just below the nameplate, Nasarawa, how I lost 9 children to air raid after paying 6 million naira, Fulani leader. That's the leader saying he has lost 9 children to air raid. I think, wow.
It's tragic. It's tragic. I think this is part of the Nigerian Air Force bombing, the mistake of dropping bombs on lives. So this man lost 9 children and he paid 6 million naira. 6 million naira to woo. It's okay. So I guess we can get to read 1 page 3 of that paper.
All right, just beside that, 1.8 trillion naira used vehicles imported into Nigeria from US in 6 years. I mean, the importation
of used vehicles.
Yeah.
So it speaks to our purchasing power of the average Nigerian. As huge as our population is, brand new vehicles do not sell well in Nigeria, like fairly used vehicles. That's what most Nigerians. There also was a report or research I read through sometimes back, and the South African economy does better in terms of sales of brand new vehicles than the Nigerian economy, despite the fact that the Nigerian population is almost times 2 or 3 of the South African population. But if you look at the purchasing power, of the average Nigerian, so how much, so for instance, as of now, the average Nigerian spends over 60% of his earnings on food alone. So how much is left for you to attend to other needs? Yeah, so, and it's only those who have disposable income. It's got disposable income in economics that can afford,
the side.
So that's when even you're able to afford luxuries. That's when you're able to go to the cinemas because you have extra fun. So if you have not been able, you've not fed, your children are not well fed, you don't have proper shelter or clothing, so you won't think of some of those other things. So it's when you have excess income, disposable income, able to look in this direction. And when you look at the fact that it's 30,000 minimum wage, look at what inflation has eaten into the 30,000 minimum wage. You look at the other challenges of the food inflation and everything. You see, most of us do not have the means to buy a brand new car.
Yes.
So even some of our rich men would still rather go for imported used cars. Only few people, maybe government agencies, buy
access to.
So this number, I'm not controverting it anyway. Yeah.
All right. Beside that, infrastructure development in Nigeria, fantastic, Buhari says in Kano.
It is really fantastic.
It is.
I have no comment on that.
I have none either. All right, just below the nameplates, we should not forget that 11 schoolgirls of FGC Benin Yari are still in captivity and they've spent 595 days now. One student of Bethel Baptist High School, Kujama, has spent 567 days. I hope that the government is not forgetting these children, the students, and that their release is helped, secured by, so that they can be reunited with their families.
We pray so. I mean, so pictures on the front page of the Daily Trust of people queuing at ATM machine to withdraw the new Naira notes. And one of the ATMs also is saying out of service. Please visit one of the other First Bank.
And then
that's the bank
inside
ATM
a bank, we can see just inside.
Empty.
Yes.
What a period.
Even more surprising.
What a time.
Wow.
What a time. Well, so I guess that's how much you have for Daily Trust newspaper.
Yes.
Okay, so let's move on to other papers here. So the Guardian newspaper, the banner headline, Nigeria must not fail with 2023 polls. UN scribe warns. With the riders, Nigeria charges NBA to ensure success of general elections. NBA apologizes to Nigerians for neglecting role. Polls must hold as scheduled. Afenifere insist once against the use of quotes to abort exercise. EU deploys 100 observers to monitor elections. Sharia Council fears staggered polls may instigate violence. Utomi, INEC must pass confidence test, tackle underage voting, vote buying. A lot of writers there, all of them talking about elections, the fact that elections must not fail. This is Nigeria's destiny, date with destiny, and we must not bungle it. A lot of concerns. Afenifere is saying the polls must hold as scheduled. Perhaps there are fears somewhere that maybe
the use of court to abort exercise. That's quite weighty.
Okay, so moving on, under the nameplate, just by the right-hand side, okay, Nigeria risks losing foreign assets to reckless borrowing. CSOs one, we need to check what our debt profile, but it's alarming. It's alarming, and we keep borrowing every day. Atiku will heed appeal court judgment on Kanu if elected president, says Okonko. Politicians and promises again.
You can put it past politicians to always make promises.
NSIA's 10 megawatt solar power will attract FDI, that's foreign direct investment, to Kano. We're saying that Check out on page 9 of the Guardian newspaper. And CNPP seeks a sanction for hoarders of new Naira notes. Okay, we support that as well. And bottom strip of the paper, despite extension, Nigerians can't withdraw old new notes. So like you said, not only the new notes are scarce,
even the old
notes.
Probably that's what informed ISWAP distributing the old notes.
I
at
see.
least that is still in circulation.
Use something. So I mean, at this rate, maybe we'll go back to the Stone Age, use trade by barter. So, you know, if I can't get a currency to trade with you, so maybe you'll bring what you need and I give you what you want. You know, I mean, give me what I need, I give you what you need. And so, because I don't know.
Maybe in the meantime,
so I mean, how do we transact? How do we trade if we can't get the currency?
It's been a bit of a dilemma for Nigerians.
I heard an expert talking about this on Sunday saying, if this persists, then there's a way it affects the confidence of Nigerians in the Naira. And that it also has another debilitating effect on the performance of the Naira against major currencies in the world. So I can't find this currency. I need to buy something. I can find the old note. I can find the new note. You know, you have motorcycle riders, the bus driver saying, if you don't have new note, don't enter my car. So they will enter the car because you know that you don't have any new note and you need to get to where you are going. So when you get to the bus stop, it now becomes a fight.
That's an issue.
You know, it becomes an issue. But these are issues. We should have our policies properly planned and well thought out. Yeah. So finally, on the Guardian newspaper, our agitation is for a restructured Nigeria, not Yoruba president, says Balawale. Who is that? Check it out on politics page 14 of the Guardian newspaper. That's all for the Guardian newspaper.
All right, moving on quickly to the Nation newspaper. We have the banner headline saying, banks fail to dispense cash in holes, ATM terminals, just like we saw on the Daily Trust. POS operators, hawkers sell Naira notes in cities. Emefiele's action political, says RAP's leader. We've been having this allegation of Emefiele's action being political, you know, being pounded by political leaders, you know, back and forth.
You know, I heard that Dodogo, I guess that's the honorable member that the Nation is talking about, speaking on Channels Television yesterday and insisting that this is political. I mean, many people believe that it's political, but I don't know what the role of the CBN is in, for instance, fighting vote buying. The mandate of the CBN, as stated out in the CBN Act, is clear, you know, but the CBN keeps dabbling in issues that it has no business in. So the CBN is now the agricultural financing agency, you know, through many of these different interventions. Now getting involved in fighting terror financing, you get to hear from the security agencies, the EFCC and perhaps the NIA and the ICPC, who gives you instructions, okay, we need to block this line, we need to do this and this and that. There are even agencies in charge of that. There's the NFIU. And so I don't know what, the CBN is stepping out of line, really. So getting involved. So that's why many people have seen or read political undertones to this policy. It could be for good reasons, because the governor of the CBN has also said, we've been able to take so amount of money out of circulation that we couldn't do before, 1.9 trillion naira, which is good. But then putting this much pressure as to the deadline and the way and manner it's been managed is horrible.
It is.
It's horrible.
It is. So the implementation of the policy has a lot of backdrops. All right. So just beside that, it says there's more on the riders. Banks branches load 1 million naira new notes daily in ATM machines. DSS links bank officials arrests many. 1,000 naira charged on every 10,000 naira. We've had that on other papers. All right, just below, we can also see pictures of queues at the ATMs, you know, of some banks. And just below that, protesters raise APC office, Tinubu Shetima Osun Center. That there was there was that issue in Ede yesterday at the APC office was raised,
Well, so we do hope that all of the parties concerned here, in the interest of our state, maintain the peace. Yes, please. And the security agencies also should offer protection to whoever needs protection and make sure that there is security in the land.
All right, just beside that, Tinubu, we will use oil to develop Akwa Ibom. That's more of the promise that this political and candidates have been making. Just below that, the bottom strip, Abuja Kaduna train services resume, and that's on page 6. AFDB votes $1.5 billion for food production. More of that is also on page 7. All right, just above the nameplate, how overvoting voided Ademola Adeleke's victory. Still talking about the Osun Election Tribunal, judgment. And why Ekiti Cargo Airport is not functional yet by government. And beside that, suspected land grabbers seal Lagos school. Bawar is UBA's CEO for Africa operations.
So the headline about suspected land grabbers sealing Lagos school sounds somehow. Like I said the other time, non-state actors having that much power, having the power of coercion, so that means the state no longer has the monopoly of violence, and it's a sad commentary on the functionality of such a state.
Yes. And it also attests to what there was this issue of some LASMA officials, I think, and a driver who said he actually alleged that they came with thugs and they looked away while the thugs dealt with them. We can also see it here somehow that when suspected land grabbers are sealing up a school, where are the authorities looking? What are they doing at that time? And I'm sure they've also heard about this. It was reported. So what did they do? What have they done? So it's just showing how we are looking away from things that we're supposed to actually be looking to, making serious arrests if there needs to be and all that.
All right, so and last one just before we go, for a break and bring in our guests, it's about the Ekiti Cargo Airport and why it's not functional. These are some of the several projects that governors dabble into that have no direct bearing on the people's life. Everybody wants to
bearing.
Yeah, and I want us to
because
build an airport.
You'll just pump funds into things that are not working.
That you could have spent on other things that have direct bearing. But that's the paper states modern. And we'll take a break. We'll return with our guest to be talking about the cash crisis.
Arrested, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. I packed A to Z. Check and confirm. Eva is pounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission, even diffusion, vast and fast. Detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is.
Can you imagine the feeling when you get your news as the break with facts and clarity? Our news are reported as it is.
In Africa, and all those who masterminded the way it happened, we have to pay a price.
Enjoy Western programs, projecting culture and tradition to the world. Brought to you as the break and recapped every hour for your update.
We must never forget the sacrifices of the heroes of Nigeria's democracy.
Produced and brought to you in a unique way never before seen.
Western Spring.
Western Spring.
And Western Spring Television. Television is coming home in your color and culture.
Arrested, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Ever expounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission, even diffusion, vast and past, detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is.
It is one day after the extension of the cash swap policy by the Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN), and customers have besieged a popular commercial bank in Osogbo, the Osun State capital. Running out of patience, having waited for more than 5 hours without access to the new note, the customers soon become agitated and rowdy. One of such customers, Ms. Beatrice Adeyemi, told Western Spring Television News that she traveled from Iragbiji to use the bank, but her hopes of getting the new notes were dashed.
What I feel is that Nigeria is not good. Both of our leaders treat us like we are goats, and that's not good. They are suffering us. In Nigeria, we have never in Nigeria, most of us we are poor. Let me go cool like that.
Another bank customer, Mr. Raji Kazim, expressed displeasure at the failure of banks to handle the situation properly.
Well, I consider that it's a very good idea because this issue of a new Naira design is not in circulation as we expected. But with the extension of this the period, I know that the money will be circulating. But the issue that we have with the bank now is they are not even giving us this money across the counter. There is no withdrawal across the counter. It's only where you can have access to it on ATM machine. That is the issue that we have with that. I believe that the CBN, they have to monitor these people in order for them to dispense this money.
Away from that bank, Meshach Babatunde was another frustrated customer who accused bank officials of conniving with politicians to halt the new Naira notes in blatant disregard of CBN orders.
Understand? I've been here since the morning. I couldn't get any money. Can you imagine? I stressed before I get my money and I save my money to bank, but to have it back is very difficult. Can you imagine? See, this government, we could never forget it. She understands, we are too sovereign. Even a lot of people, they have been here early in the morning, like 5 a.m. in the morning. They couldn't get any money. At POS, if you want to withdraw maybe like 5,000 now, you are going to pay 1,000 now.
Okpeyemi Amos is another bank customer whose frustration could barely be put into words.
Well, I don't know. The only thing, maybe because I go to bank today since 5 o'clock, but I don't see the money. I won't collect money, but I don't see since 5 o'clock. Even if you see so many people in the bank, people plenty for there, there's no get the money, but I don't know.
At the popular Igbono market, traders who were reluctant to speak on record appreciated the extension of the deadline, but pleaded for the notes to be available. Point of sale operators like Mrs. Ali Zainab also had their own complaints.
New cash, I don't have any new cash because it's not available in the bank. Even in the ATM, we can't find new notes there. It's only old note that we dispensed today. Even I don't work yesterday because of these new notes, so we don't have. So some of our customers just they go because there's no money in the town. Even those that is selling the market, when they come, only we are just waiting for deposit for the old notes to use for the work for today.
From banking halls to automated teller machines, ATMs to shops and the markets, the frustration and anxiety is the same. Irrespective of their backgrounds, the ordinary people are saying the same thing. The new Naira notes are simply not enough in circulation. It remains to be seen how this will be addressed by the CBN.
From the banking halls to the ATM stands, down to ordinary shops and even in the marketplaces, the frustration can be felt. The feeling is the same and the sentiment everywhere is the same. The people are not just satisfied with the level of circulation of the new Naira notes. Even though the central bank has extended the deadline for the cash swap policy, it appears that people are still unable to access this note, and it is hoped that the central bank will address this issue before the expiration of its new deadline. Emmanuel Ujadugele.
All right, so that report by our colleague Emmanuel Ujadugele yesterday, I mean, showing frustration, obviously, from Nigerians on the streets. You know, you heard the man say from the banking hall to the market, everywhere, everyone is frustrated by this current system. Very disappointing, very, very shocking one. But we have our guests with us in the studios this morning to help us have an understanding of perhaps what is happening and also what the situation is with them who are partners with the banks. Mr. Ali Akim Shegun is the chairman of the Association of Mobile Money and Bank Agents in Nigeria, Amban, Osun State. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Ali Akim Shegun.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Also, your members, just to be clear, are POS operators, is that correct?
Our members are mobile money and bank agents. POS is just one of the tools we use in executing our services.
Also, you do other things other than POS?
Exactly, sir.
Like what other things do you do?
We do have account opening. We do BVN enrollment. We do NIN enrollment. We issue instant ATM card. We do insurance policy. We do pension services and so many items that are embedded in financial inclusion.
So where do you do all of these? I mean, in your POS points, point of sale terminals, is that where you do all of that?
No. There are other incumbent. That's why I said POS is one of the tools. We have 442 scanner, biometrics machine. We have laptops. We have other tools we use in executing some of these banking services. They are embedded in financial inclusion services that were itemized by CBN.
So POS operations is just one leg of your operations.
Exactly, sir.
Okay. So, you are directly involved in these issues. How has it been with your members?
Our members have been doing fantastically well.
In the midst of this?
Exactly, sir. There are things many of us in the public do not get right. We were involved at the very late hour, despite our agitation. Our national president was at Zenith and House of Rep. We went to CBN. We gave them modalities. We then gave them the idea and the concept to use in this program. But it was at the late hour that we were engaged. When CBN realizes that they could not achieve the objective without involving us. We seem to have more members spread across all the interland, the unbanked and the rural areas. And these are the concepts they need to adopt. And thank God they are going to reality as we speak.
So how many members do you have in the state, for instance?
We have more than 3,000 regular members.
Oh, you also have a regular member?
Yes. There are people who wake up overnight and realize these people are making money and I also want to do the business.
So you guys make
like
money.
You journalists, we have a lot of quack journalists on the internet.
So you have quack POS operators also?
What is it, sir?
So you have quack POS operators also?
Of course, exactly. We do not have an idea of how the business should operate, but they are operating.
But you have 3,000 members in the state.
More than 3,000 regular members.
Okay. So, as it stands, you said you are involved late in this policy.
Exactly.
You've made representations. I know that there was a time you wrote a letter to the National Assembly or maybe the president at that time.
Exactly.
What is the modality? When you came in, what time were you brought in? And then how well have you been able to help government and the CBN to ensure that this policy succeeds?
We were brought in at the eve of the deadline.
The eve?
Yes.
When was that?
That was on Thursday.
This last Thursday?
Yes, sir. Do you know why I call it eve of the deadline? There was a 90 to 100 days timeline for the program. But we were only brought in about 5 to 6 days to the expiration of the process. So if I call it the eve of the deadline, I'm not missing word. I'm only being realistic.
So what were the guidelines you said you gave to the CBN to follow, to manage this crisis well?
One of the guidelines is that the people in the interland, the people in the area, in the rural area needed the cash swap services far more than the people in the city, than the people in the urban territory who already have access to the ATM teller machine. Some of the problem we have are the saboteurs and Nigerian mentality. And CBN did not get some things right if we have to be sincere with ourselves and we don't want to be economical with the truth. What CBN actually is trying to achieve is a cashless policy. They want people to use alternative means of payment. But as I speak to you this morning, on my way to this TV station, I ran out of fuel and I was making efforts to make sure I refill my tank. I got to a filling station where the person in charge of the pump is telling me they are not taking other alternative means of payment. They need physical cash. Our mentality in Nigeria has to change. And CBN has not gotten it right because they did a little of media engagement. There were not enough conscientization and orientation for the people on what they actually want to achieve. The new note that was redesigned is very minute in circulation, simply because they want to force people to use alternative means of payments, like POS merchant terminals. Please quote me. POS merchant terminal, not agent terminal.
Oh, so what's the difference between the merchant terminal and the agent terminal?
The merchant terminal is meant for transaction at business premises. For instance, I come in here, you sell Coke, you sell Fanta, you sell Sprite, I want to buy any of those products. I should be able to use my card to get those products or services. That is for merchants. There are other POS who are typically for agent transaction. Those are the ones that needs to do cash in, cash out, just like a normal bank teller. So all these people will tell you they don't want to use, they don't want to accept POS merchants, they don't want to accept transfer, they don't want to accept Mcash and every other channel CBN has created over time. So I think CBN will have recorded more success if people have actually been engaged on media and orientation programs on getting an alternative means of payment for their transaction.
So, as it stands today, people are still having these issues. You said you were brought in on Thursday and you called it the eve of the program.
Exactly.
So how much money was pushed out through you and your members?
72 million naira.
For Osun State?
For Osun State.
72 million naira.
Yeah, Osun have 30 local government and 1 area office. By the time we start engaging them, the first list I gave CBN was about 200 interland. We could not cover them. The initial list that was sent from the head office was about 700 and something agents approved for the program. When we factor it into this 72 million, it goes nowhere. So we have to streamline it down to 245.
So only 245 of your members?
Even the 245 was discarded.
Why?
Simply because we have challenges with some of the banks. There are some people that were not on the list that the bank were giving priority. So it's...
So, how does it work? You had an interface with the CBN.
Yes, sir.
You have a list with the CBN.
Yes, sir.
The money was calculated based on the list you gave the CBN.
Exactly.
So how come the banks are now introducing other people not on that list to give the money?
Because sometimes area of interest. Some bank also operates mobile money and bank services.
The bank or the bank officials?
The bank. Let me give you an in-depth to the analysis. First Bank has First Money. It's a mobile money services. Zenith Bank has Zid Money. It's a mobile money services. FCMB have FCMB agents. They call them easy agents. Polaris has theirs. And every other bank has.
But are those ones no e-payment? Are they not e-payment platforms? Do they deal with physical cash?
They do.
Oh.
They do every service. They are part of our members. But what we're saying is, I have over 3,000 agents as just making an instance as a First Bank. Only 20 were able to make it to the list.
Only 20?
Only 20. And I have my performing agent. And you're telling me not to compromise the process? What will happen to my agent after the program comes to an end? That is what we call area of interest.
So I'm sorry, before comes in, were those people not captured on the original list you engaged to the CBN?
They were captured some of them were captured in the initial list.
Yes.
But I just told you the initial list is about 700 plus. And we have to streamline it down to reality.
Yes.
Because we have two things. They are fact on paper and they are fact in reality. So the fact on paper is they want to engage 700 plus agents. But the fact on reality is they have 72 million to service those agents. So what do? We need to ration. So in all mobile money, fintechs, and the
is this 72 million naira the one only for your members, or is it also inclusive of what the bank is also giving out to customers who come to them?
No. That's allocation for agents only.
For agents only.
There are other allocations that are not meant to be dispensed on counter. They're basically for ATM services. The reason why agents were bought in is they realized that nobody can do the job in the rural area and the unbanked territory than the agents who are physically present across. Tell me any village in Osun that we've not been to, we are present everywhere.
But that was not planned for before. You are not factored into this plan ab initio.
We were not in the picture initially. We were not in the picture at all. We are not the only organization that was not in the picture.
Okay.
The Microfinance Bank Association was not also in the picture, and they are not there now. We fought our way to get on the list.
So the CBN is not disbursing this money through the microfinance banks now?
None.
The new Naira notes?
None is on the notes.
And you say that you fought your own way to be included?
We fought our way to be included.
Because of your own business interest?
No. Because of the national interest. There will have been crisis now if agents were not included in this cash swap. I was physically present at Imesile day for yesterday on Sunday. The chairman of Imesile Progressive Union can bear me witness. I was physically present at Ilase. All the chiefs in Ilase can bear me witness. To ensure these cards are dispensed. We got to Imesile around 3 p.m. and we dispensed those cards within 3 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Not minding the risk in the country at the moment. Same thing to Ilase. The people in Osunjela can bear me witness. The people in Kajoloko can bear me witness. So we ensure that those interland that we identify are being properly serviced.
All right.
Even your area was also, your interest was also put in place.
How?
I ensure an agent was placed at Woru Market yesterday, Sunday.
So how is that my interest, Mr. Ali?
That is for you people to be able to have access to cash.
But some of us do go to the bank, so I mean, I was the one at the Woru Market.
Some of these territories unbanked. There is no bank from Okefia down to police station at Ilobu there. And we have thousands of people who reside there, if not millions.
So your members cover these unbanked areas?
We have a lot of our members who do services here, even at your jobs. I'm sure you are some of their regular customers.
Okay.
And we have to put your interest in place, because I ensured yesterday.
You're hammering my interest. You're talking about the interest of those of us.
I'm talking about the interest of your community.
I just want to be clear, it's not my personal interest.
Yeah.
All right, okay.
All right, this 72 million naira that you talked about that the CBN has rolled out to your association.
Yes, sir.
How does it work? Is it a one-time thing or over time?
It's a continuous exercise. We have another set of agents now as I speak to you. At the gate of the CBN, we've mobilized them this morning. If I'm not here, I will have them there. We are moving them ourselves down to the interland. But there are terms and conditions attached to it. Because we want the cars to go round. The CBN guidelines says we must not dispense more than 10,000. But because we do not have enough, we are benchmark it at 5,000 naira per person. And there are rules of engagements. No individual can get it twice, because before you be able to get the money, access to the money, your details will be captured by the agents, your picture will be taken, and your record will also be taken.
So have you been monitoring this record taking, that it's not falsified?
Yes. If you want fact and figure, we can provide you. We can furnish you with pictures, pictorial evidence, with data analysis of the detail of the data of the customer we've actually been captured.
All right, now let's go back to the banks now. You said that these banks also have agents.
Exactly, sir.
Is it why there are no new notes at the banks? Is it that they're rolling it out to the agents?
No.
Okay.
Let me give you, for instance, Access Bank claims to have about 10 functioning branches in Osun at the moment. Some of the allocation for Access Bank is less than 100 million naira. So let's take, for instance, Access Bank got 100 million naira and need to distribute the 100 million naira across 10 branches. statistically, each branch will get an average of 10 million naira. Now, each of the Access Bank have minimum of 4 ATM per branch. Divide the 10 million naira into 4. That means each branch will have less than 2.5 million naira. At a row, the vault in the ATM will take 10 million. You've just dispensed 2.5 million naira in that. If the ATM is not rationed and all the money has to be pushed out at the same time, it will only take 2 hours to dispense 10 million naira per branch. 2 hours. And all the applications they've gotten since last week till this moment, I don't know if they got another allocation yesterday, was just less than 100 million here.
Yeah, so, and that means you're saying that the CBN is not pushing enough funds to the banks and to your members.
I said it initially on this program the last time I came. That the CBN is evacuating majority of the cash in circulation and replacing it with few, simply because they want people to use alternative means of payments.
And is that realistic?
Very, very realistic if they have actually done everything right initially.
What would be the right things that may be done before we start this?
Financial inclusion and cashless policy has started about 3 years ago. A lot of people have been engaged in doing account opening, ATM card issuance, BVN enrollment. I know myself of my own establishment, Mulado Global Investment Limited. We've go around. We've done more than we've opened more than 40,000 accounts within the last 2 years. We've done more than about 20,000 BVN enrollment. I still have the fact and figure if you want me to present them to you. I've gone around the 30 local governments in Osun and the area office. We've gone to almost all the hinterland in Osun and even Ekiti. But the problem is, those people we open accounts to or for only believe that the purpose of opening accounts is just to receive proceed from gifts, not for financial transaction. An account is meant for financial transaction. Even the government is to be blamed. There are still government agencies who take cash. There are still government establishments who take cash. Go to NNPC today. They don't have POS. They insist on cash in buying fuel. And many other well-established government institutions.
But are we ready for a cashless policy in terms of the infrastructure? You've talked about unbanked areas today, and there are a lot of places like that where there are no banks. There are some states in Nigeria where only few local governments have banks operating in those places. There are areas where you do not have electricity, and people have complained about the infrastructure needed to do some of these things. Are you sure that Nigeria is ready for a cashless policy?
We have never been ready for anything in Nigeria. We have always been forced to get ready for things in Nigeria. Let me give you an instance. The deadline is Tuesday. People have been aware more than 90 days ago that the deadline is going to be today, Tuesday. But do you notice any rush ever since? The rush started on Monday, last week. It was intense on Wednesday. It was terrible on Thursday. It was extremely terrible on Friday. The CBN has to make extra pronouncements that all banks should open their doors on Saturday and Sunday.
You think Nigerians are responsible for this crisis?
Exactly. We are
responsible.
We have our part in the crisis. Okay, because we don't get. Let me give you an instance. Okay. Immediately there was an extension. Do you know what happened? The old notes were withdrawn from back again, and they started mopping it into the economy. Till yesterday, no agent was able to receive cash deposit of the old notes. People started ordering the old note again. What has CBN told them? Take this old note to your bank account so that you can use alternative means of payment, pending the time that the cash, the new naira was actually redesigned to drive a cashless economy.
But how do you blame Nigerians? I mean, that you said they are hoarding the old notes again. if I drop my old note, there is no guarantee of getting a new note. So why leave me in a limbo?
You're talking about old notes or new notes?
I mean, both of
what we should be talking about is legal tender. The government recognizes electronic value as a legal tender.
How many people have access to that? How many people can use that? What about of our old parents back in the villages? Are you sure they'll be able to use?
Almost all of them have this kind of phone.
Can they operate? Can they use the USSD code?
How do they know the value of Naira? How do they know this is 1,000, this is 500, this is 200? They will get used to it.
When?
If that is the only available means. And that's why I said CBN has not done enough.
All right, let's talk
because there needs to be education. There needs to be orientation. Federal government have not done enough. There need to be education. There need to be conscientization. There need to be engagement with people in the rural areas so that they get knowledge that this is where we are going and this is what we want to achieve. And the advantages should be well spelled out because it's going to curb insecurity. You can imagine the most lucrative business now in Nigeria is kidnapping. Either you like it or not, you take the money yourself you take the ransom yourself to the kidnappers. Without a trace.
So we've been talking about, Nigerians being part of the problem, the government being part of the problem. So let's talk about CBN. Do you think that CBN has actually interfaced with all the stakeholders, in all this? Like,
Capitano.
So what's the way forward?
That's why we said they have not done enough. Do you know when the policy was coming up? AMBAN, Association of Mobile Money and Bank Agents, is one of the fiscal member, Financial Inclusion State Steering Committee. We will not engage. We will not come to a round table talk that, look, this is actually what we want to drive and this is how we want to drive it. If they've done that initially, we will have an input. The microfinance institution also have their association. They were not engaged. There is an association called AMCO, Association of Licensed Mobile Money Operator. They also have their union.
It's different from your own.
It's completely different from ours. We are agents to both AMCO and banks. I don't know if you get it. Association of Licensed Mobile Money Operator. Those are the fintechs. Those are the MMOs, the mobile money operators. So we are their agents. Just that we seems to be more popular because we exist in the rural area. They seems to be popular in Lagos and Abuja because they have their head office there. They only have very few staffs here. Maybe they are state coordinator, they are manager or whatever.
That the net needs to be, the range needs to be widened outside of financial institutions. What about telecommunication institutions?
They also have their union. There's something we call payment service banks, PSB. MTN has the license. Almost all telecoms has the license. They also have the platform for mobile money operation, and they also have their union. They were not also engaged. They were not engaged
because some of the reasons why filling stations would decline transactions, online transactions, will be because network issues sometimes, and having.
My question to you is there no network issues at agent points? Is there no network issue at ATMs? Even at times when you get to bank branch. I was at a particular branch yesterday. We were trying to have discussion with them around this cash issue. The agent that came for the cash swap, they were telling them there is no network. So is there no network at the banking or? If there is no problem, there will not be solution.
All right, so let's look at your role and your members' role in all of this. You said you were called in late.
Yes, sir.
And you've been trying to service all of the areas. I mean, where you go to. So you're giving 72 million naira. Yes. Have you given another tranche of funds?
We are hoping to get another tranche of funds today.
Today, okay. So in that report, I mean, before we started the show, you had some of the customers complaining that your members had hiked charges.
That is not our members, sir.
You know, I mean, we've seen instances. It's all over in the papers. Some of those who spoke in Oshogo.
Those are the reports.
POS operators.
No, they are not POS operators. They are not mobile money and bank agents.
So who are they?
They are the quack I talk about. We take advantage of everything in Nigeria.
Are you sure they are not your members?
None of our members. No, we have rule of engagement. We've engaged them. We've had a series of meetings with them. They know what is involved. They know the penalty that comes to it. If part of the interview you've not done this morning, I can find any of the agents in any location. I can identify any one of them. Such person will get sanctioned immediately.
So they said like 1,000 naira over every 10,000 naira. That's what they said.
I was at a particular bank yesterday.
Yes.
Where I saw somebody who actually was willing to take the old note into the banking hall for deposit. Right in my presence, somebody approached him and said, "Look, madam, don't take the money in. How much do you want to deposit?" He said, 250,000. I will give you 3,000 naira. Give me, I will credit your account immediately. Is that our agent? At the bank doorstep. People take advantage of every situation in Nigeria.
But this seems to be very rampant. Are you saying that the regular members, those quack members, are more than your own members?
Because those quack members are not engaged. Anybody can come up, wake up tomorrow and, okay, let me give you an instance. There is first scarcity at the moment. If you go to this filling station, you will not be able to get. You get to that filling station, you will not be able to get. And you're stranded. You've run out of fuel. You saw somebody by the side of the road, holding a 10-liter keg, willing to sell it to you at 800 naira per liter, and you're desperate getting to where you're going, and you decide to buy it. Can you hold any filling station or any station responsible for such acts? This person has perpetrated an illegal act.
So you're saying it's not your members?
They are not our members. None of our members.
Charges.
None of our members.
But it seems to be more than your members because these reports are very rampant.
It will. It will. It will. I can remember vividly when telecommunication just came in. We were buying SIM for 18,000, 19,000, 20,000. And at a point in time, the price dropped. At a point in time, there was scarcity for SIM. The price dropped even to as low as 100 naira. So at the point when there was scarcity of SIM, we have people who were going around selling pre-registered SIM for 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. Because they want to end the life of, they want to end the means.
All right, so do your members have a means of identification?
Of course they do.
That they carry about?
Of course they do.
All right, what's your regular charge, that is stipulated in your association?
Because of the current economy, initially our minimum service charge was 100 naira. But now our minimum service charge is 200 naira. And that
200 naira
over between range of 1,000 to 5,000 naira.
Okay.
We charge in range in Osun State. There are places you go where they charge per 1,000. But in Osun State, our approved rate is range charges.
Okay.
So from 1,000 to 5,000, we charge 200 naira on the average at the moment.
Okay.
And that's what you can find anywhere.
So for 10,000 naira, your members are supposed to charge 400 naira.
They are supposed to charge 300 naira. But at the moment, there is a rule that you must not pay 10,000. With the new notes.
So, the question then is, if government is trying to swap currencies,
exactly,
why should I pay to get the new currency for replacing? If
you don't want to pay, you go to ATM to withdraw. ATM will not charge you.
So if it's a policy that government feels there is a huge gap because your members service a large part of Nigeria.
Exactly.
And so why not government have a business or a dealings with you such that you give the notes to people without charging them?
Agency banking is a deregulated market, sir. We are one of the deregulated.
Why should government not bear that brunt? That's what I'm saying. If it's going to work, because part of the complaint some people are saying, so why should I go to an ATM? Our government wants me to change these naira notes. Then I'm still asked to pay again. Shouldn't that be between you, your association, and government?
Before the naira was redesigned,
yes,
people were coming to us to source for cash.
To source for cash?
Yes, and they were paying.
Not to swap their cash.
The cash swap is two-way.
Okay.
And we'll be mandated to charge for only 1 way. Let me give you how it works.
Okay.
If you're coming to an agent to make cash deposit, you're going to pay us for the service. Because our mobile money operator will also charge us for the service. If you come in to withdraw that same cash from us, even 15 minutes after, you're still going to pay us for that service. Because our mobile money operator will also charge us for that service, apart from other costs we incur. Like the cost of staff, the cost of logistics, the cost of security, the cost of transportation, the cost of legal costs. All these costs are aside. Now, the cash swap now comes with two different legs. The first leg is deposit. CBN say we must not charge, on no conditions should we charge. We also mandate all our agents, nobody should charge
for deposit.
For deposit.
And before now, you charge for deposit as well.
We charge for deposit before now. For withdrawal, CBN said we must not charge more than our standard rates. That's why you see most of the people who go for the cash swap only take 200 naira for the cash swap in Osun State here. So we only charge them for the withdrawal. We do not charge for the deposit.
All right. So, I mean, as we hit the home stretch because of our time, this crisis has persisted for long. Many people groaning, coupled with the fuel crisis. Life is unbearable for most Nigerians. What do we do? Do you think this extension will help? Or do you think this crisis will continue? And what, in your own opinion, is the solution?
You've just said it all. There seems to be more hardship on Nigeria because everything is coming up simultaneously. We're facing the crisis with the fuel. We're facing the crisis with the cash swap. We're facing so many other crises. Insecurity is still there. It has not been resolved, and many other things. The only solution we think to the problem is more of engagement. Because as we speak, CBN has decided to pump in more of the new Naira notes. We've not gotten an information on what allocation we're getting this time around. But as soon as we get, if you engage us further, we'll still give you information and give you fact and figure that will come with those information. But what we've been able to establish to them, and they have realized themselves from the statistics they have, because where the problem actually comes from is CBN take statistics from the top, not from the bottom. That's what we actually have the problem. If not, they will not have 700,000 agents, 700 agents, and allocate 72 million naira for those 700 agents, and assume that each agent will get minimum of 500,000 naira. That means the statistics is not right somewhere. So now that they are living with the reality and they are engaging the agent themselves, we are having consistent and continuous interface with them. And we've been discussing on some of this and how this can become a success story.
Do you think it's going to ease in the coming days?
Nothing is easily in Nigeria. There will seem to be more hardship if people do not change their attitude.
What attitude I'm talking about here?
I just told you one. I just told you people paid, somebody paid 3,000 yesterday to get the old currency, which is meant to go into inflation.
I'm saying that the people are also forcing the hike in these charges.
Of course. What would be the motive? I'm sorry to say this thing in Yoruba language. There was a time we have a popular governor in Osun who is very popular for his proverbial words. Then he made one particular proverbial statement that Entofi Odindi Agbo de Pakute ṣé ìlérí ló fẹ́ pa ni. Let me say it in English. Somebody who actually used a old lamb to set a trap. Is that person waiting for a small animal like a lady? So if somebody can use as much as 3,000 naira to get old currency, definitely he has other interior motive behind it. He has his interior motive, and that's some of the quack we're talking about. If I've actually caught the attention of the security men to arrest him yesterday, they will attack or something else this morning. Except we change our attitude in this country, nothing will go better.
So for those who are queuing at the banks, how does the attitude come in? For those who are queuing you know, at the banks who want to, like, I mean, my colleagues are coming here this morning, as early as after 6 or thereabout. Yes, people were already queuing at the ATMs.
Even that's at 1 a.m. yesterday.
1 a.m.
Because I remember I left the town around 1:30
a.m.
Yes.
Okay.
I went home around 1:30 a.m. because we had series of meeting upon meeting. And I can assure you that there were people in the ATM machine.
So how do we ease that? I mean, that I'm sure that's not a
true acceptance of alternative means of payment.
If you go to Igbono market, Mr. Akim, and you want to buy tomato, for instance, will the woman selling tomato accept e-payment from you?
The woman selling tomato in Igbono is now more learned than an aboki.
So I mean,
selling pepper at Shasha Market.
But how many of
them
now
take transfer at Shasha Market?
How many of them take e-payment at Igbono markets today?
They don't take it initially. Government want them to start taking it.
So I'm saying as of today. So we're looking at immediate measures to ease the pain.
Exactly the same thing we're talking about.
Okay.
They don't take it initially. But now some of them have started taking it. As soon as they're taking it, they start introducing it to each other. I just made an analog to you that in Shasha Market, there seems to be more of the Hausas and the Fulanis there. That there is this assumption that they are not as educated as some of the Westerners. I said assumption, don't misquote me. They now take transfer.
All right, 2 questions quickly before we leave. As CBN rolled out people to sensitize these people on, you know, some people don't know how to use these things. That's number one.
Only CBN can answer that question. I'm not an official of CBN. Okay. I can only speak for Association of Mobile Money and Banking.
Tell us, as your people, how have you been able to manage that?
You know, to do that? We have our publicity sector. And we've actually been engaging our department in our association. And they have been doing a lot of orientation for the populace. We can't do more than that.
So, you said at the markets now, on how much transaction would you expect us to use online banking? Like if I want to buy something or purchase something of 200 naira, are you saying that I should make transfers as well?
If you're buying quantity of 200 naira, nothing is stopping you from making transfer. But 200, 300 markets, they still, you know, the 20 naira note, the 50 naira note, the 100 naira note are not going into extension. Part of the advice you have given CBN is that they should make it available for people as legal tender. Because it's also not much in circulation. So it is only the 200 naira note, 500 naira note, and 1,000 naira note. If you go to Kenya, what they use there is M-Pesa. They call it M-Pesa. If you want to buy a very small quantity as sweets, you can easily buy it through M-Pesa.
All right, so Mr. Ali, we need to go, but I'm sure we'll bring you back again because we'll keep tabs on monitoring the developments in town and also how your members are helping to ease off this pressure. But we'd like to thank you for coming on the program this morning.
Thank you,
Mr. Ali Akim Shegun, the Chairman Association of Mobile Money and Bank Agents in Nigeria, AMBAN, here in Osun. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. All right, so that's the show this morning. We'll be stepping aside for Emmanuel to come and take us through what's trending on Spring Trends. Femi Olanipeku is my name.
I'm Timmy Ola. Have a nice day.